A couple spends a weekend at a rental home in the Italian countryside. In this home, you never know who is watching. A couple, Bryan and Cassie, decide to rent a house in a secluded area of Umbria, Italy, for a week. They are trying to fix their relationship after Cassie was caught having a drunken rendezvous with a coworker. Since the incident, Bryan has become impotent and remains suspicious of Cassie. On the first night at the house, they try to engage in intimacy, but Bryan can't continue as he feels someone is watching them. The next morning, Cassie goes for a run and injures her ankle after a fall. She flags down a passing truck, and a handsome Italian man named Federico stops to help her. He drops Cassie off at the house and offers to give them a ride to town in the afternoon. After Cassie takes a shower, Bryan sneaks up and starts getting intimate with her. But he has visions of her cheating on him and walks away. Unknown to them, Federico has hidden cameras all over their house and is watching them. The trio has an awkward ride to town. Bryan accuses Cassie of encouraging Federico's lustful actions towards her. Disappointed, Cassie leaves alone to return to the house. Bryan gets drunk at a bar, where Federico joins him and secretly drugs his drink. Federico then invites two women to help Bryan back to a hotel. Bryan and the two women end up having a fling. But afterwards, Bryan has no memory of it and takes a taxi home. Federico starts showing up at the house when Bryan isn't around and tries to flirt with Cassie. One day, Bryan discovers that Federico is not their neighbor as he claimed. Federico threatens Bryan, saying he will tell Cassie about his drunken encounter with the two women. Cassie believes Federico is simply being friendly until he cooks them rabbit stew for dinner and creepily mentions his love for hunting. After Federico leaves, Bryan warns Cassie that Federico is not who he claims to be and tells her not to let him visit. He also confesses about his night at the hotel with the two women, but assures her that nothing happened. Through his cameras, Federico watches Bryan and Cassie making up and planning to get intimate. Disgusted, he traps Bryan in the cellar and leaves a note for Cassie, telling her to put on a blindfold. Believing the note is from Bryan, Cassie complies. Federico then kisses and gropes Cassie while recording. Just as he's about to clap her, he hears Bryan escaping and leaves abruptly. Cassie finds Bryan's phone nearby and sees a video of him with the two women at the hotel. Meanwhile, Bryan finds the tape of Cassie and Federico's encounter. The two confront each other, each accusing the other of infidelity. When Cassie throws her phone at Bryan, it misses and hits a mirror, revealing a hidden camera. Realizing Federico has been secretly watching them, they panic. Bryan tries calling the police, but the line disconnects. Now that his secret is out, Federico comes over to the house. Bryan and Cassie plead to be let go and promise to stay quiet. But Federico attacks Bryan with a knife. In the ensuing chaos, Cassie grabs a cane and hits Federico. Stunned, he falls, and she continues hitting him until he dies. Suddenly, a car pulls up, and Bryan tells Cassie to clean up the blood while he hides the body. The visitor turns out to be Eduardo, the owner of the house, whom Bryan had called earlier to complain about Federico. Bryan assures Eduardo that everything is fine now, but Eduardo insists on checking the house. Bryan and Cassie worry about what to do, fearing that the authorities in a foreign country might not view the death of Federico, a local, as a result of self-defense. Meanwhile, Eduardo checks the footage on security cameras and sees Cassie killing Federico. He confronts Cassie and demands a confession, while Bryan sneaks up behind him. Eduardo suddenly turns and points a gun at Bryan, accusing them of murder. Cassie stabs Eduardo, and Bryan hits him with a cane before taking the gun and shooting Eduardo. Later, Bryan finds recordings of a number of couples, revealing that Eduardo had been Federico's accomplice. He burns the tapes outside, and he and Cassie bury the bodies. They destroy the cameras, unaware that an outside camera hidden in a gnome's eye is still recording. They promise to keep what happened a secret and finally have an intimate encounter, while a website broadcasts their actions of burying the bodies to viewers around the world. Thanks for watching. To catch all the latest from us, subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified as soon as a new video drops. We'll see you in the next one.